Right guys, welcome back. So today I thought I'll do a quick music discussion, more like a review actually. I thought I'd review the second show that as part of Metallica's 40th anniversary that Amazon has quite kindly actually given us as free streaming on both nights. Now I certainly didn't actually get to see the first set, which was a couple of nights ago. So today we're Monday, the 20th. So the gig happened between the night of last night in America. So it was early morning for us, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And the other gig happened a couple of nights before. I didn't get to see that one, I'll be honest with you. I actually think I completely forgot the first one was happening that night. I got my dates a bit wrong. But anyway, so I got to see the second one. I'm regretting a little bit not having seen the first one, to be honest. Just based on the set list, I think I would have enjoyed that one more from a set list point of view. But I get the feeling the performances, from what I've been hearing, were quite similar in terms of the delivery of the performance. So I thought I'll do a review on that. Look, I've got a in the recent years a bit of a checkered history when it comes to Metallica. As what the band means to me, and a lot of people of my age, they would have been one of the first bands that we got into. Actually, I got into metal through Iron Maiden. But Metallica were, for my generation, in some ways the more accessible bands, just because Maiden were quite established, whereas Metallica, even when I started listening to them, which was at the end of the sort of Justice tour, they were already a huge band. But Maiden just felt even bigger than that, because, I don't know, there was something, they looked a bit older. So Metallica felt more of my generation, more the kind of guys I aspired to when I was a teenager. But anyway, and they were just faster and more aggressive. I love Maiden as well, don't get me wrong, but with Metallica it was special. So I felt, you know, I ought to really watch this 40th anniversary. I've obviously seen them live many times. The last time was 2 or 3 years ago at Twickenham in London. In terms of output, musical output of Metallica, I'll be honest with you, for me, up to the Black Album, even the Black Album, I struggle with a little bit. I like some stuff on all the albums, even up to Hardwire. But in terms of albums that I still would regularly go back to, we really, I'm gonna sound like a real elitist here, but Justice pretty much is where, for me, the Metallica that I like really stopped there. Really, after that, it's a different Metallica, which we can discuss another time. But anyway, I thought it'd be, I thought, you know what, it's being streamed free on Amazon Prime. It's, you know, times that, you know, at the moment, you know, everybody's feeling a bit down. I just said, you know what, I've got nothing else to do. You know, I should wake up and watch it, because, you know, the band still means a lot to me, and to obviously a lot of people around the world. Anyway, I put my clock on at my alarm on my watch on my phone for 4:40. I think the gig was going to start at 4:55 AM UK time. But I must have got an internal Metallica clock in me, because by 4:45 I was awake without the alarm actually going off. I woke up by myself, so you know, I dragged myself out of bed, got downstairs, put the TV on, and you know, the streaming just started. It was about to start, and then lo and behold, a fire alarm went off at the venue in San Francisco, at the Chase Center, if I'm correct, in San Francisco. So I was like, great, are you kidding me? Did I just wake up for nothing? To what, you know, is it going to get cancelled? But you know, anyway, very soon, you know, the intro came on. Actually, I don't think we even got to hear the Ecstasy of Gold from the stream. It went pretty much straight to the intro to Hardwire. So we'll talk about the set list. I'll talk about the performance, my overall feeling about the gig and all that. So if I understand correctly, the major difference, beside songs being different from one night to the other, from a conceptually, the difference between the Friday night gig and the Sunday night gig is Friday night they went from old to new, and then tonight, or last night they went, or this morning, they went from new to old. So by that we mean they started off today's gig, the one I saw, with Hardwire to Self-Destruct, and finished off with Seek and Destroy. So all the way back down to Kill 'Em All. So the idea was, very quickly Hetfield introduced it, that you're going to get to, and actually quite ironically introduced, you're going to get to hear a song from every album, and then launched into a song from the much aligned Saint Anger. So I find that actually quite funny. You clearly see that they still sort of understand where that album sits in the sort of in the discography of the band. Thankfully, nothing from Lulu. Which I was very thankful about. I was worried that they might pull something there. So anyway, in terms of set list, so there was some interesting stuff. Opened up with Hardwire to Self-Destruct. I've actually printed up the set list so that I don't forget. Then we went straight into the song from Death Magnetic, which is The End of the Line, which is actually a very good song out of Death Magnetic, and it sounded great. And apparently they haven't played that song live since 2010, so it was good to actually hear that. I did see them on that tour, right at the beginning of that tour, when they did a couple of shows in London as part of the album launch for a $5, which was brilliant, and I'm pretty sure they played The End of the Line on that one. So that's actually a good song. Then, like I said, he introduced the fact that Hetfield introduced the fact that they're going to do a song from every single album, and then give it a little bit of a maniacal laugh saying hee, and then launched the song from Saint Anger. Actually, bizarrely, this was okay. It was Dirty Window, and I didn't mind it. I would have rather hear Frantic or Saint Anger itself. I totally don't mind those two songs, but Dirty Window actually sounded pretty good. You know, it's an odd one. I mean, Saint Anger is still a terrible album, but when you're throwing a song here and there into the set list, it sits okay with the rest of the stuff now. I think because since then they've done a couple more albums, you know, always with a bit of hindsight, you can look back at albums, go, yeah, it was bad, but it's sort of, you know, it sort of starts working after a while. I think it's a bizarre thing about music. But anyway, then interestingly they threw in I Disappear in there, which is a single, which was off, if I remember, off the Mission Impossible soundtrack, Mission Impossible 2 soundtrack, which was a good song, and that was good that they introduced that. Apparently they haven't played that one since 2013, which I'm quite surprised about. And then there was a little video about the fact that Metallica has always done a lot of covers, and they talked about all of the covers they've done, you know, and there's always been an important part of them, which is true. Metallica is one of those bands actually that's never been shy of playing covers in their sets, and actually incorporate the songs as part of their set. And sort of eventually I think a lot of people even thinking this is actually a Metallica song. So, and you could really feel the way they were talking about Diamond Head and all that, that the song they were going to do was going to be Am I Evil. So they did Am I Evil. The good thing about that for Am I Evil, they actually played the song in its entirety, which they haven't done in a long time, which at the end of the song, Lars, you know, James asked Lars, do you know when was the last time we actually played this in its entirety? And apparently the last time they played it was in 2011, which actually was the 30th anniversary, so 10 years ago, and I'm pretty sure they had some other guys that performed that song with them on that night. So apparently that's the last time they did that. Then we're entering the sort of the middle part of the show, which was a bit of an odd one for me, because they basically entered the reload and load era. Again, for me, like I said, I'm not a huge fan of the output post Justice, but there are stuff in those albums that I do like, and again, with hindsight, I can enjoy them more for what they are. But it was interesting. They played The Memory Remains, which has become a bit of a staple one for them, so they can get the crowd singing. But then came sort of, then came Fuel, which was good, you know, which was a good one. So 2 from Reload. So you've got The Memory Remains and Fuel, interesting. And then you've got 2 from Load as well. You've got Bleeding Me, which is a great song, which apparently looks like, from the looks of it, hadn't performed since the last anniversary, the 30th anniversary. And it was interesting to see what at the end Hetfield did mention about what that song is very cathartic to him, and you always felt that that song is a very sort of autobiographical kind of song. And you know, it was interesting to hear that. Anyways, quickly going through set list. Wasting My Hate, great little surprise. I wasn't expecting it at all. Actually, to be fair, based on the fact that everybody was screaming about Fixer, which they did play on Friday, I thought they were going to keep that for that night, for this night as well, but they didn't. Obviously, we're talking, had they played it, they would have played it as part of Reload. But they played Wasting My Hate, which apparently was the first time they'd done it live. So that was interesting. I was quite surprised. I thought when I saw them on the sort of Load tour in '96, they did play it, but apparently they didn't. Then they went into the Black Album, and I'll be honest with you, great version of The Unforgiven. However, we'll talk about that in a minute. We'll come back to The Unforgiven when we talk about performance. And then Enter Sandman, bit surprising. I didn't think they'd play Enter Sandman. I thought they might just play one of the other tracks from the Black Album, slightly more obscure song, and why not something like My Friend of Misery? That would have been great. Enter Sandman, do we really need to hear it again? Anyways, then they went into Justice. Now this is probably my biggest disappointment, you can probably tell. Only one song out of Justice, and that happens to be just Harvester of Sorrow, which isn't even my favorite song. So again, you know, would have been cool maybe for me to hear something that they don't do, like the Eye of the Beholder or The Shortest Straw, something like that. That would have been a bit sort of, you know, left field a little bit. Not Die As If, because they would have butchered it. So, but you know, yeah, something like Eye of the Beholder would have been fantastic, I think. Just something that's so unexpected. Anyways, Then we're going on to sort of the more staple diet, Master of Puppets in its entirety, which is good. They realized don't cut the song halfway through because they did that for a while, which was ridiculous. Fade to Black, which was good. I hadn't heard that one live in a while, so that was I was quite happy to hear that. It was a very good version of Fade to Black, actually. And then came the final two songs of the set, come from Kill 'Em All. We've got Whiplash, and we've got to big ending with Seek and Destroy. Again, not my favorite songs out of their catalogue, but you know, it always works live. So all in all, I would say a pretty decent set list in terms of trying to go get a breadth of their entire catalogue. I think there was a slightly heavier set list on the first day, which probably I would have preferred. They did play One, I think, from Justice, but then again, I've heard One loads of times as well. So Harvest of Sorrow, that way was pretty good. I haven't heard Harvest of Sorrow live in a while. So let's just talk about the overall show and performance now. Now, I've seen Metallica many times, and you know, the first time I saw them, which was on the Black Album tour, the original tour they did with the Snake Pit and all that, that's always going to be in my mind forever, because that was the first time I've seen them. It was just like, I remember not sleeping for nights before and after because I was that excited to see them. So I've seen them obviously a lot of times, like I said, 2 years ago in Twickenham, and so for me, Metallica doesn't really hold a surprise. I know what I'm going to get. It's generally, I know it's not going to be the tightest playing. I'm going to hear songs that I like, songs that I don't like. It's a bit of a sort of more of a ritual to really watch them. So I was expecting that, but what I did found about the general performance, unlike other performances I've seen lately of them, it was a very professional performance in the sense that it was very clinical. There wasn't much actual messing around between times. So for instance, they got rid of the god-awful little medleys or whatever that Robert and Kirk used to do, and butcher songs like, you know, When the Doves Cry and stuff like that. I'm sure you must have seen those kind of stuff, which is just horrendous. They did that on the last tour in London, and I think in London we got lucky. They probably just played the Black Sabbath song, but I've seen other ones. I mean, if you haven't, you should all watch that about what not to do live. So they didn't do any of that. It was a very professional performance in the sense they knew they had a set list they wanted to get through. There was a concept behind it. We want to play everything that, you know, get a song out of all our sort of different eras and everything. So it was very obvious. One of the things that really sort of came out, you know, to me, I noticed a lot. Lars was on point. Most of the night he was on point. There were moments still he was rushing. But what he was on point on, and I think I know the reason why, and I did notice that Twickenham a couple of years ago, Lars has now been playing with triggers. Now I know for the purist this is like an absolute swear word, but the reason it actually works with Metallica is that it's tightened up Lars's playing quite a lot. Now a lot of the one passage I really noticed is on the ending of Fade to Black, when the entire double bass passage comes through. It cuts through really well. It's played tightly, and I think that that sort of helps the rest of the band. Kirk Hammett's solo was actually very good on that, because that double bass, if you re-listen to Ride the Lightning and Fade to Black on the album, the guitar solo is really built around that double bass that comes in that song. So it was really good to hear that Lars's double bass being very, you know, now obviously for the purist it's not sort of a proper bass drum sound. I understand it's a much more modern kind of bass drum sound, but based on the fact that Lars Ulrich doesn't seem to practice that much, I think the triggers actually do help him just to keep that sort of endurance going on long passages of double bass. So from that point of view, I would say actually Lars is the one that impressed me, and I know that sounds crazy, and I know Lars gets a lot of shtick, but to be fair, Metallica would not sound like Metallica without Lars. So I've always said that now, and Metallica wouldn't be Metallica without Lars in terms of also the sense of where they are as a band, the enormity of the band. Hetfield's vocals sounded okay. I think he sounded a bit tired to me, but that's normal. I mean, look, let's cut the guy some slack. It was still a lot of passion in the way he sings, but you can feel that sometimes his voice is getting a bit tired. Kirk Hammett was on and off, so some of the solos were very good, like Master of Puppets was pretty much spot on. But there's an issue with Kirk Hammett, and this was what I was talking about, The Unforgiven. I don't understand. They've got like some of the best road crew, and he always has some intonation issues. So the moment you really hear it is on The Unforgiven. The intro of The Unforgiven, it was actually quite painfully badly, you know, the intonation was quite painful. Because you know, James Hetfield playing a lovely clean acoustic guitar, and then Kirk Hammett comes in with that beautiful lead on the album, but live it just sounded like there was an issue with the guitar intonation, which shouldn't be. With the kind of crew they've got, they should be able to fix these things easily. To be fair, sound wise, I didn't actually get to hear Robert that much. So the overall, the sound throughout the evening was on and off. Started off pretty bad on Hardwired, got better. It just went on and on. But that's the reality of watching a live show that's being streamed. There's going to be all kinds of stuff. Again, I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna sort of question that. So the final thing I wanted to talk about in regards to the performance, it was an odd performance. Like in the sense it was very professional, but it also, and it was a big celebration, the 40th. But I remember watching videos of their 30th anniversary. And this one felt, there was this, I don't know whether it's just the general air of how everybody's feeling at the moment. Again, with for us in the UK with the new variant, we're all quite depressed. And I practically got in Hetfield especially, there was this sort of very sort of, not depressed, but it just seemed very sort of nostalgic. Obviously, if you're celebrating 40 years, it's a long time. You're also realizing that I'm not going to have another 40 years probably of playing this kind of stuff, and 40 years is a long time. We're talking, these guys are in their 60s, 40 years they'll be 100. So I don't know whether there's a realization that there's not going to be another huge, there probably will be a 50th, I'm pretty sure. But I think, I don't know, and also maybe sort of just, understanding the kind of times we're going through. Perhaps in their mind the 40th anniversary should have been something a bit bigger than this, a bit more global. They did have a lot of fans. I saw some flags from other places of the world, which is fantastic to see that in the middle of that. That just shows what an appeal the band still has, that in the middle of all the crises, the difficulty in traveling, people still making their way to go and see them celebrate their 40th anniversary. So I think that's something, kudos to the band to have that kind of a link. Even like, think me waking up at in the early mornings to watch a band that I've seen live so many times. So it does say something about them as a unit and as people, that they have been able to bring a lot of people together. So I think that's kudos to them. But at the same time, it felt to me that they knew that times were different. That they knew that, yes, it's a celebration, but it was just a bit more muted from them. Especially from Hetfield, I felt he realized the gravity that, we're all in, that it's, we can't be gigging freely. Lots of bands can't gig. They're still managing to gig. They're still managing to pull off a big show. And even the show itself, there was a bit of pyro here and there, but nothing over the top. And I would say actually that's quite commanding of them, because this is the kind of band that can throw the kitchen sink at a production. But it felt to me that they tried to restrain that and said, you know what, let's just let the music talk. Putting all the stuff, pyrotechnics and all that in these kind of difficult times maybe isn't the right thing to do. Let's just be a little bit more humble about things, and that's the word I was looking for. Humility did still feel. I know Metallica sometimes feel they're on another level to everyone, and they are. I mean, let's face it. But it did feel to me overall there was a certain humility about this performance, because it's a momentous thing for them personally. 40 years playing this kind of music, with mainly the core of the band still there. I know they've obviously lost a number of bass players, but the core of the band still there is quite a commendable thing, and commercially that they're still so big. So, but I did appreciate that humility. Initially I felt a bit like underwhelmed, but at the same time I thought, you know what, I actually think maybe they're aware of it. They're aware that this is not the same celebration as 10 years ago and it was their 30th anniversary. They're obviously older as well. Hetfield even mentioned about sort of, my mind wants to play these old songs, but my body doesn't cope that well, which is a great thing to acknowledge, and actually for fans to realize that, guys, look, these guys are getting on. The kind of music they play is difficult. It's not an easy, it's a physical type of music. They can't play the way they did when they were in their 20s. It's just not going to happen. I mean, as an example, I noticed playing Master of Puppets that the intro of Master of Puppets, I'm not sure Hetfield is downpicking it anymore. It sounds generally quite messy. So anyway, in conclusion, look, I'm glad I woke up to watch it. I'm feeling a bit tired now, but I'm glad I woke up to watch it because, like I said, for a lot of us, that band still means a lot. They still managed to, despite having made their sound more commercial, still remain a heavy band as such, that managed to get very, 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 very big. Without sort of losing, the complete essence of their heaviness. They didn't go completely, they haven't done a complete 360. I know, people like myself feel, it's not the same thing. I agree, but at the same time, not many bands have managed to get that big playing still a heavier form of music. And I thought it was important to just, it's available, why not sit up and watch it and enjoy for what it was. So I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the performance. I thought it was a tight and sort of very professional performance. The set list would be a better set list for me on Friday. But I think what I appreciated again is it felt to me that Metallica knew times were a bit different and it's not the same kind of celebration. And for that, I would probably say that, you know, that is going to remain quite a special gig for me, because it did feel that they captured the essence of the moment, that yes, it's our 40th anniversary, but just remember that we're not, you know, it's a slightly different time. And just Hetfield gave that impression to me. I could be completely wrong, by the way, but that's just the impression I got. Anyway, I'd like to know what you guys thought. If you woke up, what did you think of the Friday gig compared to today? See if you watched both, or what did you generally think of it? It'd be nice to hear from you guys. Until then, stay safe. If you're in the UK, stay very safe. Things are not great, and hope to see you soon. And stay metal.